Memorial Day. What's it about? What does it mean? It's the day we honor veterans, but not every veteran. Memorial Day is a day of remembrance for the veterans that died in service to our country. They died to defend our freedom. What does that mean exactly? You've heard the saying, freedom isn't free, and it's not. The question is, what's the cost? The answer? 1.3 million. Bought and paid for thanks to the 1.3 million veterans that have given their lives protecting freedom. Servicemen and women, Marines, sailors, soldiers, and airmen. The 1.3 million warriors that have died defending this nation. 1.3 million. If those men and women stood shoulder to shoulder, they'd span from New York City all the way to Richmond, Virginia. 1.3 million. That's the population of San Diego. Many of them are buried at Arlington National Cemetery, a cemetery that covers 624 acres. Freedom isn't free, and that's the cost. 1.3 million, 624 acres. So while you're enjoying your barbecue, picnic, and family time this weekend, take a minute to salute those 1.3 million veterans. That's what Memorial Day is about, remembering and respecting those 1.3 million veterans. The bigger question is, why? Why did they give their lives, and what did they give it for? You see, there's a common bond that's shared by every veteran, living or not. All branches, it's the same. The oath of enlistment, a promise to uphold the Constitution. It's a blank check made out to the American people with a simple promise to defend the freedoms defined in the Constitution for an amount up to and including their life. That's what service to the country is about. We call it honor. It's not about political foreign policies, fighting foreign wars, or even being the world's protection force. It's about something much bigger than that. The purpose of the U.S. military is to protect the Constitution. Now some people are saying that the Constitution is no longer needed, no longer relevant, they say. But there's a problem with that for the 18 million or so of us veterans still living in this country. And that is, our oath didn't expire. So in a sense, there's a red line there, I suppose. Veterans have lost their lives in battles around the world. Iwo Jima, Guadalcanal, Chosin Reservoir, Wake Island, Saipan, Okinawa, Bella Woods, fighting for the cause of freedom in valiant fashion, never seen in history. Conquering evil dictators, restoring freedom to millions, and creating hope for people around the world. Young men, since the dawn of our country, that saddled up, rode off, knowing full well they might not come back, and selflessly gave everything they had for one simple purpose. And it's not just political, but spiritual. This country has always been a beacon of freedom for people around the world, but it's under attack. It's always under attack in one way or another, and that's why it's so important to remain diligent, not just for us, but for the hope of humanity. And here's the bigger point I think people really ought to pay attention to now. As much as Memorial Day is a day of remembrance, it's a warning. What am I talking about? It's a warning that when freedom is under attack, and if it isn't restored by peaceful means, the likely result is the death of good men to defend it. And none of it would be necessary if more people would stand up, make their voices count, support the Constitution, demand it be honored, and vote accordingly. This country wasn't always free. It'd be a big mistake to take it for granted even now, especially now. It took bold men to stand up to tyranny and take up the fight for freedom. Notice a big difference in ideology in the oppressors and the warriors. One says that people should expect more from government for themselves. It's selfish. The other side says they will lay down their life for your freedom. It's completely selfless. One completely selfish, one completely selfless. Which one of those ideology would you say is better bet? A lot of people don't know this, but the Revolutionary War was as much a civil war as it was a revolution. The country was very divided. Many people here didn't want freedom. It's hard to imagine now, looking back, but it's true. Many people didn't want to be free in this country. There was bitter fighting, even brother against brother. There was blood in the streets in just about every American city, and here's why. Freedom is a tenacious thing. For most people, I'm convinced not all, but for most people, there is a deep, natural desire to live freely. Sometimes fear sets in, and people warm to safety and security in favor of freedom. But they'll always go back to that yearning for freedom, no matter how dangerous it is. Then there are the few, the ones that have decided it's their cause to fight for freedom, and if necessary, defend it with their lives, and for good reason. They realize how important it is. So this Memorial Day, tip your glass to the 1.3 million veterans that gave up their freedom so that you can have yours. And remember the purpose: to protect and preserve the Constitution of the United States.